Ava and Marcus moved cautiously through the dimly lit corridors of the underground facility, the echoes of their footsteps barely audible in the oppressive silence. The memory of the unsettling noise from the night before lingered, keeping them on high alert. "Stay close," Marcus whispered, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. The facility's atmosphere seemed even more suffocating than usual, the air thick with the weight of the unknown. Ava nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The flashlight in her hand cast a narrow beam of light, barely penetrating the darkness ahead. They turned a corner and froze, listening intently. Faint voices echoed through the corridor, growing louder with each step. "We're not alone," Ava whispered, her grip tightening on Marcus's arm. They crept closer, peering around the next corner. To their shock, they saw a group of rugged survivors, their clothes tattered and their faces hardened by survival. The group was huddled together, discussing something in hushed tones. Marcus pulled Ava back, his expression tense. "We need to stay out of sight. They don't look friendly." Ava's mind raced. "Maybe we can find out what they're up to without them knowing we're here." They carefully retreated, seeking a vantage point where they could observe the group without being seen. As they positioned themselves behind a stack of crates, Ava's flashlight beam briefly illuminated a face peering out from the shadows. A young woman, her eyes wide with fear, stared back at them. "Who are you?" the woman whispered, glancing nervously at the group of survivors nearby. Ava and Marcus exchanged a quick glance. "We're survivors like you," Ava whispered back. "We didn't know anyone else was down here." The woman hesitated, then stepped closer, still wary. "I'm Sarah. We heard your broadcast and came looking for answers. But my group, they're not exactly trusting of strangers." Marcus nodded, understanding the situation. "We don't want any trouble. We're just trying to survive, like you." Sarah looked over her shoulder at her group, then back at Ava and Marcus. "They won't be happy if they find out you're here. You should go before they see you." A sudden noise from behind them made all three jump. One of Sarah's group, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, had spotted them. "What's going on here?" he demanded, stepping forward with a menacing glare. Sarah tried to block his view, but the man shoved her aside. "Who are these people?" "We mean no harm," Marcus said quickly, stepping protectively in front of Ava. "We just stumbled upon you and—" "Stumbled upon us?" the man sneered. "You're spying on us." Before Marcus could respond, the man lunged forward, grabbing him by the collar. Ava reacted instinctively, swinging her flashlight and striking the man on the arm, forcing him to release Marcus. "Get out of here," Sarah urged, her voice urgent. "Now!" Ava and Marcus didn't need to be told twice. They turned and ran, the sounds of pursuit close behind them. They darted through the maze of corridors, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they searched for a place to hide. They rounded a corner and found a door slightly ajar. Without hesitation, they slipped inside, closing it quietly behind them. The room was small and cluttered with old equipment, providing enough cover to remain hidden. They listened as the footsteps of their pursuers faded into the distance. Marcus leaned against the wall, catching his breath. That was close. Ava nodded, her heart still racing. "We need to be more careful. There are more dangers down here than we realized." As they waited for the adrenaline to subside, they began to formulate a plan. They couldn't stay hidden forever, but they needed to find a way to communicate with the other survivors without provoking a confrontation. "We'll have to find Sarah again," Ava said. "Maybe she can help us." Marcus agreed, but his eyes were filled with concern. "We have to be smart about this. One wrong move and we could be in serious trouble." Ava and Marcus sat in the dimly lit room, the weight of their recent encounter pressing down on them. The silence was broken only by their shallow breaths as they tried to piece together their next move. "We need to find Sarah again," Ava repeated, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. "She might be our only way to communicate with the others." Marcus nodded, his mind racing through possible strategies. "But how do we approach her without alerting the rest of her group? That guy with the scar won't hesitate to attack us again." Ava considered their options. "We need a distraction, something that will draw their attention away long enough for us to speak with Sarah." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft noise at the door. Both tensed, ready for another confrontation. But instead of an aggressive intruder, the door creaked open to reveal Sarah, her face pale and tense. "I followed you," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "We don't have much time. I can help you, but we need to move quickly." Ava and Marcus exchanged a look of relief mixed with caution. "What do you suggest?" Marcus asked. Sarah stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "There's an old storage room near the east wing of the facility. It's isolated, and we can talk there without being overheard. Follow me." Trusting her, they slipped out of their hiding place and followed Sarah through the labyrinthine corridors. The facility seemed even more menacing in the dim light, each shadow a potential threat. They moved swiftly but silently, every step calculated to avoid detection. As they approached the storage room, Sarah paused, listening for any signs of pursuit. Satisfied that they were alone, she led them inside and closed the door, leaning against it with a sigh of relief. "We're safe here for now," she said, her voice low. "My group is complicated. We've been through a lot and trust is hard to come by." Ava nodded, understanding the sentiment all too well. "We don't want to cause trouble. We just want to survive, like you." Sarah looked at them, her eyes searching. "Your broadcast mentioned the shadows. We've seen them too, but we don't understand what they are or where they come from." Marcus took a deep breath, ready to explain. "The shadows are the result of genetic experiments gone wrong. The facility we were in before was used to create them, in an attempt to adapt humans to extreme environmental changes. But something went horribly wrong, and they became what you see now." Sarah's eyes widened with a mix of horror and realization. "So they're not just random monsters? They're people?" "Twisted versions of people," Ava clarified. "The experiments corrupted them, turning them into the predators we now have to face." The weight of the revelation settled heavily on Sarah. "My group needs to know this, but convincing them won't be easy. They're already on edge, and trust is in short supply." Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest. "We need to find a way to work together. There are more of us out there, survivors who need to know the truth. We can't do this alone." Sarah nodded slowly, her resolve hardening. "I'll try to convince them, but you need to stay hidden for now. If they find you, there could be a fight, and we can't afford to lose anyone." As Sarah prepared to leave, Ava touched her arm. "Thank you, Sarah. We know this isn't easy." Sarah gave a small, tight smile. "Surviving never is. Stay safe, and I'll do what I can." With that, she slipped out of the room, leaving Ava and Marcus alone once more. The quiet returned, but it was a different kind of silence, one filled with hope and a plan for the future. "We need to stay on guard," Marcus said, breaking the silence. "But at least now we have a potential ally." Ava nodded, her mind already working through the possibilities. "We should gather any supplies we can find in this room. If we have to move quickly, we'll need to be ready." They spent the next hour sifting through the storage room's contents, finding useful items, a few tools, some canned food, and a first aid kit. Every item felt like a small victory, a step towards ensuring their survival. As they worked, the bond between them grew stronger, each act of cooperation reinforcing their trust in one another. Despite the constant threat looming over them, they found comfort in their shared mission and mutual support. Their preparations were interrupted by a distant noise, a sound that sent a chill down their spines, a faint, rhythmic tapping that seemed to reverberate through the walls of the facility. Marcus and Ava exchanged wary glances, their senses immediately on high alert. "What do you think that is?" Ava whispered, her eyes wide with concern. Marcus shook his head slowly. "I'm not sure, but we need to be prepared for anything." They moved to the door, peering out into the dim corridor. The tapping grew louder, more insistent, as if something, or someone, was making its way closer. "Should we hide?" Ava asked, gripping her flashlight tightly. "Let's see what it is first," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "If it's one of them, we'll deal with it. If it's something else, we'll need to act fast." They edged out of the storage room, the cold air of the corridor a stark contrast to the stale warmth of their hiding place. The tapping continued, echoing ominously as they crept forward. As they turned a corner, the source of the noise came into view. A lone figure was hunched over a metal pipe, rhythmically striking it with a wrench. It was one of the rugged survivors from Sarah's group, the man with the scar.